What up, Dynasty players in the house? It's the Dynasty front office, and we are building championships one trade at a time. Please like and subscribe. If you have a moment, leave a 5-star review. I mean, that's the kind we like anyway. Just leave a review. We're part of the Dynasty Warzone Network. Again, we are Dynasty front office. I'm your host, Jesse Schneeman. We're going to have some real fun tonight, guys. Got a special episode. Dynasty Trade Court is back. But before we can do that, we got to do a trade banger of the week. And I got to talk to my best friends in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Major Mike Casper, welcome back to the podcast, sir.
It is great to be back, Jesse. Welcome. I'm so glad.
Welcome. No, that's what I say to you. That's not how it works, sir.
It's been a long time. That was great. Yes, it's so good to be back, Jesse. Thanks.
I don't even want to go on vacation anymore.
No, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
And the auspicious Austin Bell. How are you tonight, Austin?
I'm lovely, man. Get a chance to beat on Mike some more. This is my favorite thing to do. I'm good.
Oh boy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. All right. And my main man, seated to my left, my main man, Chad Mendoza. How are you tonight, Chad?
I'm good, man. It's nice to be here, guys. I've been looking forward to this all day. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a killer episode.
Seated to my left, 1,000 miles away.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. All right, guys. Let's roll right into our trade banger of the week. Austin, since you made the trade, tell us what you did.
Cool. I traded away Michael Pittman, Kyle Pitts, and Justin Fields, and I received Jalen Coker, Jameis Winston, Devon Achane, and an early 25 second. It's a 12-team super flex, start 2 running back, 3 receiver, and 4 flex, along with some extra, but we're going to annoy that part. So I think in face value, I probably lost the trade. It's 0.75 premium. That is an important aspect of the trade, but there is a small bonus point per carry. I think it's 0.2. But yeah, I think overall I lost a trade, but I want to hear what y'all have to say.
Chad,
I think there's bonuses for rushing first down too, isn't there? Or, no?
Okay, yeah, it's one of the. I can't remember if it's per carry or first down. I know it's a small rushing bonus.
But I think just for Achane, like the splits with Tua and without Tua are just so astronomically different. Like I think he's just an absolute game changer in the running game. So Aggie here, clearly biased, but also numbers don't lie. So I think he's a complete game changer. I guess second question obviously should know, but who is your starting tight end in that league now that you lost Pitts obviously and didn't get a tight end in return, I guess?
I have McBride, Tucker Kraft, and Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
You know, having those 4 guys, I kind of offered, hey, you can have any of the 3 minus McBride, whichever one you want the most, and he chose Pitts.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like it too, and I guess my last point will just be I like how that early second kind of gives you further flexibility. If the current trend of injuries continue to allow you to fill in those gaps, if other injury bugs continue to bite your team, or you try to upgrade again at another position, whether it be wide receiver or quarterback or whatever the case may be. I think having that early second in your back pocket still, I think, is a good way to upgrade, because there's, like we talked about before the show discussing this trade, there's I don't think there's any guarantee Justin Fields is a long-term starter anywhere else. You've got 2 short-term quarterbacks, and he's not starting right now, and Winston is. So yeah. I do like that side for you personally. But
cool.
That's me.
Chad.
I think it's a fairly even trade, just because it's tough to I don't know, like I can see the upside, I can see the downside of each side. I think it's tough to give up Pitts in a 0.75 premium, but it also depends on how many flex spots you have in the league. So there's that whole aspect of it. Achane's just, he's a great running back to have, and if you're low on running back, start 2 running back. It's not bad to have him. as part of that package there. That second are you thinking that's going to be later, or is it going to be
No, it's currently 102.
currently 102? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I personally like the
200.
side that you gave up a little bit more. I think there's a little bit more upside there with it. As far as, guys, I still like Michael Pittman as a player. I think there's a chance that he gets a little bit more, play with Flacco in there. And Pitts has looked really, really good the last few games. I'd say probably the last 4 or 5 games he's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I mean, I definitely a trade that I'm going to keep tabs on and see how it looks at the end of the season for sure.
Yeah.
If you had asked me last week around this time, and we're going into week 9, right? So if you had asked me going into week 8, would I give up the 102 for Pittman? I'd have told you no. Absolutely not. But
the 202, but yeah.
202. I'm so sorry. I keep saying that. I wrote it down 102. 202 for Pittman, absolutely not. But now with Flacco throwing to him, it unlocks Pittman as a player who, if Pittman with a good quarterback should be, in my opinion, worth the 110. I feel like he's always been worth the 110. Right? So now that he's got that quarterback, it elevates his value. The problem is it's just for this year, right? We don't. I mean, Flacco is 38, I believe. So even his biggest supporters know that this is not a long-term solution. So are we back to A-Rich next year? And are we back to this fluctuation in Pittman value? And I would be happy to get out of the Pittman business, to be honest with you, for the 102. So I think that part of it's really good.
Yeah. That's kind of, I will say this trade was completed about 30 minutes before A-Rich was benched.
Oh, okay.
So that I probably would have tried to sneak in a third or something just to make me feel better. But at the same time, I have enough Pittman shares. I did kind of want to get out of this one. That was absolutely part of the thought.
Sure.
He's been on my bench majority of the season. So and the piece we haven't spoke about the whole time was as much of a reason why I wanted to do the trade as anything.
Jamie's? Oh, no, your boy.
And that is Jalen Coker. As a Panther, I'm going to be biased on this, similar to how Chad was with Tyrone Tracy, and he was right. I kind of I hope that I'm going to be right on this one. He's been really good. It's just been limited usage until last week. PFF has him as the wide receiver 3 on the season as rookies, only behind BTJ and Neighbors. He's got a 84% catch rate with 0 drops, and had a 98% burst score, 98% catch radius score. 98th percentile dominator rating in college, and broke out at 18 in college. So the prospect stuff is there. It was just that he went to Holy Cross, and then he got hurt. I think it was March of this year before the draft, and that's a big reason why he went undrafted. His hands are great. His route running seems smooth. He doesn't have top end speed. That is another knock on him. But man, just watching him, he's going to be on the field. The usage is going to stay up, and now moving Deontay, it's just going to open it wide open for him.
Even with Thielen coming back.
Yeah, they're going to play different roles.
Mm-hmm.
Coker's ran a lot only outside, and they've actually had Leggett a lot where Thielen had played. Those roles had swapped. So without Deontay, I'm assuming Leggett takes Deontay's role for now, but there's a possibility that it's Coker. And if it is, man, you could see 8+ targets a week.
I would expect them to move Leggett around quite a bit. Thielen's going to be.
They might trade Thielen too, right?
It's not out. I mean, as little as they got for Deontay, heck, they might just take some sandwiches for Thielen. So the team might be interested.
Just the fact that he's not playing, I don't see an NFL team trading for him.
Yeah, he's practicing. I think he's going to be activated this week.
It's just that they don't have a body of work this season to know that he's not washed, to give something up for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he's traded, but I do. It is possible.
He can get cut, actually.
Yeah, I looked into that. The contract doesn't really help any. He's still under contract next year.
Mhm.
So it doesn't help him save him a lot of money to cut him. But I could see them just taking a 7th for him before next Tuesday. It is possible.
Well, I don't know that he's worth that. They might cut him just so he can go play for a team that he wants to play
Yeah.
for.
That's fair.
That's what I meant by that.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, it is a banger of a trade. In the end, I mean, yeah, you say on face value you lose that trade in value terms, I guess, but I'd have a real hard time giving up a chain and getting back a package headlined by Pitts. I mean, yeah, he's been playing great lately, and he plays great with Cousins, but that's not going to last forever, and it's been a bumpy ride so far. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So you get these 3 guys, Pittman, Pitts, and Fields, that their value has just fluctuated so much over the last 2 years. I don't want to be in that business. So good on you. Good on you to get a high pick, a guy that you really like, a chain who's a stud. You know, probably do we all have him in our top 5 dynasty running backs?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I definitely do. And then a fun as hell quarterback for somebody that's not even playing. So yeah, I just talked myself into it.
Cool.
Yeah,
we do have a pretty good question that we probably need to discuss before we get into our big game that Jamie brought up in the chat. I would like to discuss that as well.
Hey, Richard Penix, that's not even a question.
Nah, the one above it is where I'm at. The actual value.
Oh, okay. So we saw him go for a late first right before we started.
Yeah, that was a
Trade.
2 QB team, 2 QB league, so that
True.
does adjust some of that.
But we also all thought that was an overpay.
Yeah.
I mean, Chad, since this is right over your face, what's the difference between you explain the difference between A-Rich and Bryce Young in value right now to me?
The difference between Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. Is there?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I've been asking myself since I saw the Flacco news.
Mike, you're muted.
Yeah. Mike, you're muted.
I know. I'm just talking to myself. I'm saying that's so crazy. It's true, but it's crazy. Just
And
blows
heck,
my
one's
mind.
actually playing.
Yeah.
Bryce is actually starting again.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's totally wild. It's where we're at. Yeah. But
I mean, truth be told though, I don't agree with what's going on in the league right now as far as these quarterbacks not getting play. I mean, we've seen these kind of struggles from guys like Lamar. We've seen these kind of struggles from guys like Josh Allen. This is not something that we haven't seen. I mean, you look at Josh Allen's first couple of years, they were awful. They were
nothing this bad.
it was. I mean, Richardson was probably better.
No, it's not.
No.
Yes,
Statistically,
yes.
analytically, it's literally not. A-Rich is in the bottom 5 all time of worst percentage starting, EPA and actual completion percentage of all time. In his first, I think
I'm
it's
telling
20
you,
starts.
I'm gonna bring up some stats on Josh Allen. I think there's a little bit of revisionist history going on. I mean, there was people calling for his benching his first year.
Yeah.
I mean, people wanted his head, and I mean, you guys forget I'm pretty in tune with the area. Like it was not pretty.
I'll make you a deal, Chad. How about this? You have the rest of the episode till the final segment to bring up all of that stuff, and we'll talk about it after we do the court. After we do the dynasty.
I like it.
Court.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Okay, gentlemen. I've been told that there's a civil matter before us. Is that right?
There is a problem.
there is, good sir.
All right, gentlemen, I will have your silence. This here court is now in session. This court will now come to order. I am the Honorable Judge Jesse Schneeman. Also seated in the courtroom is our jury, consisted of one Chad Mendoza. Good evening, sir. Now, this here is a civil trial in the matter of Michael Casper versus Austin Bell. The plaintiffs will be representing themselves. At the conclusion of their arguments, our jury will render its verdict. The plaintiff who wins their argument will be awarded the Scrote Ghost. For those just listening on podcasts, I will let you know that the Scrote Ghost is a ceramic ghost that looks like it has testicles. It's shaped like scrotum, y'all.
It's pretty
And
awesome.
that's the award for winning this civil trial. All right, these two men have agreed to the following trade, and the winner will be determined here today. Mr. Bell receives Marvin Harrison Jr., Jaden Reed, and Tyrone Tracy. Mr. Casper receives Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, and George Kittle. Now, I'll remind you, gentlemen, that this here is a civil trial, and your behavior is expected to reflect that distinction. Mr. Casper, please begin your argument.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I would like to begin with my glorious Eagle player. So, again, be not confused with who I am receiving in this here trade. I am getting Mr. A.J. Brown, Mr. Saquon Barkley, and Mr. George Kittle. So, first, let's look at this glorious fantasy football schedule that the Eagles have down the stretch. They have the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Dallas Cowboys, the Washington Commanders, the Rams, the Ravens, the Panthers. Okay, they've got the Steelers, but then they've got Washington again and Dallas. Are there any defenses there besides Pittsburgh that really scare you? Okay, those are some great defenses for this offense to go up against and really score some points. Now let's focus in on these two players and what they have actually done so far this season. A.J. Brown, right? Going to be thriving in these shootouts, okay? A.J. Brown, again, injured at the beginning of the season. What's his point per game average? 19.95 points per game. Number 2 at wide receiver, only behind the also injured Nico Collins. He's had at least 80 receiving yards in every single game. And in the 2 years that he's been with Jalen Hurts, he has finished as both the wide receiver 5 and the wide receiver 6. And again, he is only 27 years old. We are talking Dynasty, my friends. He is only 27 years old, and his contract, while going through 2029, does have a potential out in 2027, but he is not going anywhere soon, folks. So you've at least got him for the next 2, if not more years. So A.J. Brown, not going anywhere soon. He and Jalen Hurts have this rapport together, have finished as the top 5 wide receiver regularly, and have that rapport together. A.J. Brown, healthy, top guy, league winner, book it. All right, now let's go to Saquon. Coming over from the Giants, okay? Number 1, these numbers would look even better if he didn't love his teammates so much and he wanted to keep running over the Giants when he played them earlier this year, right? Oh gosh, the jury doesn't like me saying that. I'm sorry, jury. He didn't want to keep running and break his own record for most rushing yards in a game because he loves his teammates. But Mr. Saquon Barkley has had at least 17 carries in 6 of the 7 games that he has played. That is a true bell cow, which besides the folks of like Derrick Henry, there's not too many bell cows left, okay? He's great, all right? Let's keep it that way. He's the RB3. Again, Saquon is only 27 years old as well, okay? The old myth of, hey, well, once these RBs hit 20, 27, 25, they can't do it anymore. That's not a real thing anymore, okay? These RBs are producing well. Derrick Henry's doing it. Saquon's doing it. All the old guys are doing it and are being league winners, okay? Just because they're young doesn't mean they're producing at an elite level every time, okay? 20.6 points per game PPR this year for Mr. Saquon Barkley. He's finished as the RB1 overall 2 times, okay? He signed through 2026, and he also has, that out as well. But now I want to bring you to Mr. George Kittle, all right? Oh, come on. the jury doesn't like me talking about Saquon because he left his beloved team. I sense some bias in the jury, Your Honor. I ask for the jury to please be replaced at this time. But I move on to
No, stop. That jury has been selected for you, and you will accept that jury as it has been presented. Now,
but I move on to my last point, and I think one of the most underrated points of this case, which is Mr. George Kittle, the man, the myth, the legend himself. The hair is glorious. The personality is even more glorious. He's the tight end one, y'all, and he missed the game. He missed the game in week 3, and he averages 18 points per game in no tight end premium. That is insane. He has 100, again, in no premium. We're talking no premium. He has 126 fantasy points. The drop to tight end 3, which is Trey McBride, who I also love myself, drops over 30 points from 126 to 92 fantasy points on the year. That's an insane drop. Talk about a positional advantage you have at one of the premier positions that has been the most difficult to navigate this fantasy season. When we talk about dropping down to tight end 10, we're talking about going from 126 points to 73 from the tight end 1 to the tight end 10. That is the type of advantage that Mr. George Kittle is giving you there. Again, no Ayuk, done for the season. Debo is currently day-to-day with a rib injury. Jordan Mason is nursing his shoulder. All right. CMC, still not back. They need Kittle for this division run. Okay. The Rams are trying to surge. Seattle is trying to surge. The Niners are trying to hang on. They need Kittle. Okay. My last point, in a 0.5 tight end premium, okay, George Kittle is the number 25 player overall, ahead of, you guessed it, Justin Jefferson. He has more points in a 0.5 premium than Justin Jefferson, y'all. In 0.75, he is the number 9 overall player. Again, depending on some of your scoring settings and how you rate your quarterbacks, okay? In the number 1 premium, 1 overall premium, he could, depending on your scoring settings, be the number 1 player overall in some of the leagues that I run personally. I've seen the way that he scores in that. So, again, elite position. By far and away, he will be a game changer in your league. All of these players are elite. Again, I get it. Kittle is old, but will be a game changer in his position alone. And the other 2 that I mentioned are young enough to keep you contending for years to come in your Dynasty League. What say you, Austin?
All right, sir. Thank you for your argument. Eloquent and well stated. Mr. Bell, we'll have your argument now.
That was a great discussion, Mike. You brought up some very valid points about those old guys that I'm sure the judge will really like. But we're going to talk now. We're going to talk about the young guys. We're going to talk about the guys we all love in Dynasty, the rookies, the second years, the guys that are still producing, but are going to give you 5+ years of production. To start off, Marvin Harrison Jr. Everybody's loved him. They've loved him for 3 or 4 years, and this is his first year in the league. He started off slow. We could say that. Obviously, week 1, everybody was like, oh my gosh, he only had 1 catch. What's wrong? Well, if you look, week 2, he was the wide receiver 1 on the week. So take out week 1 and let's take out the concussion game. Both are fair. And he's averaging 16 points per game, which would currently put him at wide receiver 13 on a point per game average. So that's a pretty solid number for a rookie who is just 22 years old in an offense that has an elite tight end and him. Other than that, not much target issues. Pretty wide open for him to see a steady stream of targets as the season goes. And statistically, overall, just rookie receivers averaged about 2.6 more points per game as the season goes in the second half of the season. And that number jumps up to 3.4 points per game for first-round rookie wide receivers. So that alone, let's just say he does the average. He isn't the elite specimen we think he is. Let's say he's the average. So if you go the 16 points per game and make it up to 19 points per game, where does that put him up at? Was that A.J. Brown number discussion? I think he was at the 19 point per game. So we're talking about a possible top 5 wide receiver for the rest of the season. And that doesn't speak on guys like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, I mean, even Amon-Ra St. Brown. These guys in the second half of the season were wide receiver 1. So you see elite talents like this, which we all believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Why is he not in the same kind of stratosphere when this comes for the second half of the season? One more thing I will mention, since we are trying to score points, everybody's trying to win. From weeks 12 to the end of the season, he doesn't have a single tough matchup. All are 20th or worst against wide receivers. The only one that people would say is tough is the Rams, which in week 2 he put up almost 30 points on. So that's a good matchup for the remainder of the season. And then, as mentioned, he's 22 years old, so you have about a decade before you have to worry. Now, let's move to the next piece. Mr. Jaden Reed on the Green Bay Packers. He's 24 years old in his second season. It's been a weird year for Green Bay. Jordan Love in and out, receivers in and out. So we're going to have to be a little bit more selective on his production because the weeks without Jordan Love, he struggled. But with Jordan Love, they've played 5 games together, and he's averaging 18.3 points per game, which is good on the wide receiver 8 on the season if you extrapolate that out. His playoff matchup is just phenomenal. There's not a single risk in any of the playoff matchups. He's already dominated one of them. He's the first read in majority of games, and with Jordan Love, you never know what's going to happen. So Jaden Reed, he's so electric. He can go for 80 and a touchdown in any given play, which is why he has some of those down weeks because it just doesn't happen. But with Love, more times than not, it's proven that it's happened. And last but not least, Mr. Tyrone Tracy, rookie for the New York Giants. Over the past 2 weeks with Singletary back, he's out-touched Singletary 32-11. If you look at the first couple weeks, that was flipped. Singletary was covering about 70% of the touches. Tracy was getting about 30. This is completely flipped since the injury return. He's averaging so the week before against Philly, it was an odd week. He had 11 touches. Singletary had 5. He didn't do a lot with it, but as most of the people in this pod could discuss, not a lot you could do in that game. It was a very odd scripted game. But another stat as rookie running backs go, they average over 3 points per game more in the second half of season on average. So with the usage there, there's not a reason why we can't see Tracy be an RB1 for the remainder of the season. Over the next 5 games, he sees run defense that is 24 or worse. So should have no issue being to help you carry yourself to the championship. He does have a couple tough matchups, week 15 and 16. But if you happen to make it through it, you get Indianapolis in the championship, which is as good as it gets. I'm not going to go much further. Mike brought up some very valid points, but for me, the age is such a open difference in this, and we'll leave it at that. What do you have, Judge?
Well said. Michael Casper, any rebuttal to that?
I just think it's funny a little bit that he says he wants to bring up age when Tyrone Tracy and Reed are both 24. They're only 3 years younger than A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley. So we're not talking huge age gaps here. And Tracy's a rookie, right? So I'm not going to dispute like their talent a ton, right? Like one thing for Reed, right? Like he's got 2 big 30-plus point games this season, and he's only earned more than 6 targets once this season, right? And that's kind of the issue with Green Bay is they've got a lot to go around. And him getting a lot of the snaps, right? 80+% of the snaps just hasn't really happened this season. And that's what kind of worries me moving forward. Tracy obviously just got a concussion this week, so probably not going to go this week. Just got diagnosed today, so I doubt he's cleared in time for this week. Probably cleared for next week, yeah, I'm sure. But, again, losing out points the rest of this week. Harrison, yeah, if we take out a whole bunch of games here and there, we're able to change a whole bunch of things around. But bottom line is right now, today, Trey McBride is scoring more points per game than Marvin Harrison Jr. is. So let's keep the facts where they're at.
Mr. Bell.
Okay.
Silver
You want to
Bell.
keep facts where they're at. That sounds awesome, actually. Let's go ahead and do that. So, Mr. Saquon Barkley, who's averaging a crazy 20.6 on the season, which is very impressive. Let's see what he did in 2023 in the first half. 16.9. What did he do in the second half? 15.3. Let's look at 2022, 19.6 in the first half. In the second half, 15.9. And let's go all the way back to 2021.
Excuse me, sorry, on a different team.
Oh, wow. Mr. Judge, you have nothing to say about that?
Excuse me, I was drinking water and
Mr. Casper, I will ask you to keep things civil.
And lastly, in 2021, 15.9 in the first half with a whopping 10.5 in the second half. So it's proven every year of his career outside his rookie year, he has regressed in the second half of the season. For what it is, we do not know, but there's no reason to say that that couldn't happen again this season. And we can even go next to A.J. Brown, who's on the same team, in case you were wondering. 2024, he's doing a whopping 19.9 on the first half of the season. 2023, he was doing 22.6 in the first half of the season. That regressed all the way down to 10.7 in the second half. 2022, 18.9 in the first half of the season. 2022 second half, 16.5. So there's no reason to say that just because they're going crazy now, as these guys get older, a lot of times they wear down. They get tired. Defenses change. That doesn't mean they're just going to instantly stay producing the same they have all season. As for Kittle, I don't really have a lot to say negative about him. With the usage, with the lack of other weapons, there's a good chance he's going to be a difference maker on the season. The risk is always, as it seems, is the injury, but he just plays. I don't have a lot negative to say about him, other than that San Francisco offense hasn't been what we hoped for the season. So you never know what happens.
Is that all you have to say for now, Mr. Austin?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bell. Mr. Casper, any response?
No, Your Honor. I believe Mr. Brown had a great break at the beginning of this year, so I believe he will be well rested for the nice schedule, as I believe I stated that he has at the end of this here football season. And Mr. Barkley is behind a better offensive line. I think he has a nicer offensive coordinator, so I think he will enjoy the fruits of his labor at the end of this schedule. Thank you.
You wouldn't be making fun of my accent, would you, Mr. Casper?
Never.
All right, gentlemen, do you both rest your cases?
Yes, sir. Thank
The
you.
prosecution, defense, or whatever I am rests.
All right, thank you very much for your arguments. They were well thought out, very, very eloquent. I appreciate, and the court appreciates your time. Now, we direct our attention to the jury. Mr. Mendoza, have you had adequate time to consider the arguments here this evening?
I think I have, but I do have just a couple of questions here for the I don't know, prosecution. Anyways, for Mike,
So this is a civil trial. You may address them by Mr. and their last name.
Mr. Casper,
Yes.
from the pieces that you're giving up, I know you spoke a lot about your team, or the pieces that you'd be receiving in the trade here. We know AJ Brown, Saquon, all these guys are capable of top end production, especially in this season and the next seasons to come, right? In your mind, at what point do you say the potential of the elite prospects that I'm giving up is worth the immediate production when I'm also giving up such a huge age gap? How do you justify that in your mind when you're competing? Because if you look at players like Jalen Reed, and you look at players like even Tyrone Tracy and guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., could these guys be wide receiver 5, 6, 7 on the year? Could Tyrone Tracy be a RB13 on the year, RB12 in the year? Is giving those guys up when you can still get production worth it when you're giving up that much age?
you play to win the game, right? So that's like, again, we're not like in this trade, right? We're not looking at a full blown roster, right? Of what it looks like. And I think that's what has to be considered when you're making a trade of this caliber, right? Is this is what I would assume would have to be an all-in move of this is what I have to do to make it go over the top, in my opinion, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But
No,
also, I also feel like in that argument too, like these pieces can also hold enough value if I finish a second or a third going into the next season. I still think I'm still able to get enough value, whether I try to run it back or if I decide to break it down and, you know, sell it to another contender. I still think I'm able to get close to, you know, whether it's 80 cents on the dollar or, you know, something of that nature. But the gap between what they're producing this year, like in a points per game basis, and where I personally think they're going to finish on the year of what I would try to do to win a championship, like that's enough. That would be enough for me.
Okay.
Is that,
Yeah.
is that
Well said.
answering your question?
Well said.
Yeah.
Austin or Mr. Bell, question for you
Sure.
here. So you're giving up a ton of production, you know, a ton of pretty much locked in production on the barring injury, right? Which we have seen injuries with guys like Saquon, AJ Brown, pretty often. But let's say these guys were to stay healthy, just for the sake of the argument, right? With a competitive roster, what point do you look at your roster and say, I can give up potentially not winning this year with the guys that I'm giving up? Because these are, you know, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 3 caliber players, RB1, RB2, RB3 caliber players. At what point are you saying, okay, the age is worth it, I can take the hit on the year, maybe not win this season, and move it into next year, the year after that, the year after that? What lets you sleep at night when you're making these kind of deals and potentially giving up championships?
So a lot of this is roster dependent, as kind of like Mike brought up. Assuming you're not moving Kittle as a contender unless you have another young stud or another stud tight end on the roster. So this trade isn't occurring if you don't have a McBride, a Kraft, a Pitts, an Njoku, somebody like that can replace that production to an extent to where you're gaining the age difference with AJ Brown and Saquon compared to Reed and Harrison. So that's the first thing with this isn't happening without that stipulation. And a lot of this with me with making the trades to go younger is I believe that the production is going to be much closer than what we've seen. A lot of times these young guys don't start off fast. That's common. And the difference is whereas if AJ Brown gets hurt, the value plummets. I mean, just earlier in the season when he was out 3 or 4 weeks, his value dropped way down. Now he's playing again and scoring points. Everybody's like, "Ooh, yeah, he's great." Same thing with Saquon. If Saquon gets hurt, his value is going to struggle to become a first. Look at Christian McCaffrey. The guy was a top 3 dynasty running back. Misses the first, 9 weeks now? And you can hardly get more than a first for him. So when that age difference, that's a huge thing when you're trying to build a dynasty roster. Of course, winning's the end goal. And you're not making this move if you don't think your roster is already loaded enough to handle the production gap. But with these injuries, if they occur as they do to everybody, their value is going to plummet. Whereas if Marvin Harrison gets hurt, his value doesn't change. He's still a second-round startup player. If Jaden Reed gets hurt, the value really doesn't shift. I mean, even a guy, look at Ayuk. He's 2.5 years older, and people are still paying a first plus for him. The same thing is going to happen if Reed gets hurt. Whereas if Saquon gets hurt, I'm going to be able to get plus for Reed, much less Harrison. So that's the biggest difference for me, and that's a huge reason why I would take the use side in this trade.
Well said. Yeah, okay. I think I'm ready to give my verdict.
All right, sir. I will hear your answer.
So, in the case of Casper v. Bell, The jury declares Austin Bell the winner. And what I would
We will
say,
have order in this court. Order.
what I will say,
Throat ghost.
I think the explanation to my question there at the end kind of put it over the top. With the injury explanation, where let's be honest here, if this was a real league, if Mike wins the league, he wins the trade, right? That's the big thing.
Yep.
Mike's got some solid arguments there. If he wins the league, he wins, right? No matter what.
Absolutely.
But with Austin's trade, if Saquon gets hurt, if Kittle gets hurt, if AJ Brown gets hurt, that's significant hits to his roster. Where maybe the only significant injury that really hurts Austin's side of the trade is his weakest player in the trade, which is Tyrone Tracy. Jaden Reed gets hurt, his value is going to maintain. Marvin Harrison, he gets hurt, his value is going to maintain. He's still going to be able to compete with the pieces. Let's say neither of them win. I think he wins the trade. He wins the league, then he wins the trade. So, I think it's a good trade all around. It's really tough one to pick. Whoever put that trade together, I mean,
Can I say something off of that though? Just from, and this is a personal strategy of Mike standpoint off of that is
Yes, sir. You may.
this is why, and I understand. Obviously, if you're competing and if you're a top 3 team and all 3 top 3 teams are like trade dogs and always spamming offers and things like that, but especially because you're using that reasoning, right? The injury reasoning of why you're picking Austin in this case this is why I like to wait as long as I can before I make any trades.
Yeah,
of course.
People are like, well, I mean, it's not that obvious because you see people moving their firsts in week 4, or week 5. And this is why, and these are the reasons why I don't do it. Like every week, someone's tearing their ACL, Ayuk's tearing his ACL, Diggs is tearing their ACL, everyone's tearing their ACL. And that's why looking at your league settings of, hey, when is your trade deadline? Is there a trade deadline? Looking at the teams in your league of, hey, who has these elite producing assets? Are they even gettable in your league? And maybe starting those conversations now of like, hey, I might be interested in this guy. Maybe not right now, but I just want to let you know, like, hey, just start sniffing around. That's my strategy. Like, I don't know if anybody else feels the same way, but it's how I like to roll to avoid that as much as possible. Because I hate to be in the, you make the trade, you trade all of your picks for these guys, and then 2 of them go down before you even lock in a playoff spot or even make it to the, quarterfinals.
Yeah,
Well
for
said.
sure. And
well said.
it's nice to try to take a second or a couple seconds and try to ride a hot hand, like Amari Cooper and Njoku last year. Even though Njoku got hurt again, it seems like that's always going to happen when he's hot. But yeah, I agree. I like that now, and just like to piggyback on that, I like the hot hand approach as well when you're in the playoffs with leagues with no trade deadline, especially. It's really nice.
Yeah.
The chat's really Higgins happy right now, aren't they?
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your arguments. Mr. Austin Bell, please see the court clerk, and you will receive your scrote goats in 4
Yes, sir.
weeks.
Yeah. Good battle, Mr. Mike. That was
All
fun.
right.
You had a very good conversation.
You too.
I actually enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. Yeah, both sides. I totally
Feels
saw.
a lot better winning, but I know from the loser perspective, you still did really good.
It was tough. It was tough, and it's hard to judge too because, like I said, it just depends. If Mike wins the league, he wins the trade. So
yeah, and I agree with that. Coming on the side,
everything's
I
always
absolutely agree.
always roster and results dependent.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Thank you, gentlemen, for the court episode, the court segment. So let's do some stuff from chat. I think chat's going to blow up if we don't talk about Jaden Reed versus T. Higgins.
Yeah.
I think it's a mid-second, maybe an early second. If I have Reed, I'm probably wanting an early second with Higgins. I think Reed's ceiling's much higher than Higgins. I think that's the biggest difference for me.
Yeah.
Production can be similar, but the ceiling's a lot higher for Reed.
It's a lot of unknown for Higgins going forward. What's going to happen
Yeah.
there next year?
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a mid to late second, probably, just because of the ambiguity, I feel like, of that wide receiver room in Green Bay. I like that he's linked to Green Bay for a while, and he's got the rapport with Love, right? And wherever Higgins goes, like I don't like free agency wide receivers. I just don't. Every time they go somewhere in their first year, like who goes somewhere in their first year of free agency and just
A.J. Brown.
explodes? Okay, besides
Wasn't free agency.
that wasn't free
Trade.
agency, it was a trade. I mean, same thing essentially, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I mean, it takes elite prospects, is what you're saying.
yeah, I don't think Higgins is because he's always been a 2. So
Yeah.
that's why I don't think that. But I feel like it's more of a mid to late second. But
Yeah, you're probably right. It's just from the Reed side, I would want the earlier second.
that's fair. That's fair.
It's happened a lot with running backs this year. Running backs
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
other teams.
It's probably a little bit easier. You don't have to get the same chemistry with the quarterback and the offensive system.
It's true. Yeah, I guess most of them are trades. I mean, how many big time wide receivers hit the market?
Very
They get
few.
traded and extended first.
Even if it's just a sign and trade.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some good wide receivers moving around and finding some success. You can DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs. You know,
All
there's an
trades.
argument there for him. As
Devontae
far as
Adams.
pre-injury,
Devontae Adams was good in his first year with the Raiders.
yeah, Devontae Adams, yeah. AJ Brown.
Yeah, that's the first one. That I
Yeah.
said.
I mean, I think there's a quite a number of them actually. I think it's maybe. I mean, even guys like Christian Kirk, right?
Yeah, that's probably the best.
Kirk
for the
I
was the
forgot he was
only
a
true
Cardinal.
free agent. I feel like true free agent signing.
Yeah. They had to overpay to get him too.
Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney's been
Yeah,
really
that's a
good
good
this year.
one.
Yeah, Mooney this year is definitely popping off.
Yeah.
Nate asked pick value wise just for Higgins, right? Is he still at first? A late
Yeah,
first?
yeah.
More than
I think
that,
a
I would
late
say
first.
late first and a second.
Yeah.
Oh,
For T.
I don't think I'd give a second with it.
Really?
I'd give a dart throw player that they chose.
Higgins,
Like, hey, pick one of these 5 guys. You can have one of them with it, but that's probably about it.
Yeah, I think
He's right on the cusp. I'm really waiting for Higgins to become more efficient. I think if he was able to be a little bit more efficient in that offense, I mean, man, you're talking about really breaking into that wide receiver 1 territory. But he's just really inefficient as a target hog in that offense.
Higgins or George
Pickens. Pretty easily for me.
Yeah, I think I'd take Pickens. I hate his attitude so much.
Yeah, he cracks me up. I'm glad he's
I'll
not on
take
my
it.
team, but he cracks me up.
I'll take Higgins. There's just as much uncertainty with Pickens as there is with Higgins next year. So
I take Pickens. I take Pickens. But I don't think it's crazy far apart.
No, it's pretty close. That's why I asked. But I like the talent in Higgins a little better. He's just a better player.
I don't agree with that actually, but that's understandable.
All right. So I'll say he's a better athlete, and he's a better football player. Pickens isn't that polished a football player. He's just got crazy catch radius and hands.
Yeah, I think he's the best 50-50 ball catcher in the league.
One of them.
Yeah, when the ball goes his direction, I think he's catching it every time. He might not.
Marvin Harrison Jr., since we were speaking of him, is going to be the number 1 guy.
I think he will be. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, now that Nuke's not around, I mean, he's around, but he's not Nuke anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to have to just call him, what's his first name? We're just going to have to call him Mr. Hopkins. He's not Nuke anymore.
Nah, he was a guy. He was so good.
All right, we got any other trades from chat? No.
I think that was it in the chat. It was really just Reed and Higgins.
There was a CMC trade in P3 that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Austin shot me down. I just
here
don't
for
feel
it.
a lot of CMC trades. And now with him coming back,
I haven't seen CMC traded, actually, to be honest.
Nope.
interesting. So CMC, Gino, and Judy. 2 firsts and 2 seconds.
Yeah, but isn't it 26 and 27 first?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's
And second.
that just
Yeah, I guess you're right. To not even get a 20. I didn't look at the years. To not get a 25 first.
that's somebody that's trying to win a championship, and that trade might make them do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so what's the reason I brought it up is I just really want to talk about CMC's value. Start 2 running backs. I mean, start 1 running back. It doesn't really matter, right? Because you're just starting him no matter what.
Are you?
Yeah.
How many games in? Are you starting him the first week he's back?
Yes.
Okay.
With him, yes. I'm not even questioning it. With Hawk, I have him in some lineups and not in some lineups. If I really need him, I'm putting him in.
Okay.
Let's do this. This is always a fun game. I'm going to go through a list of running backs here. Tell me where you slot in Christian McCaffrey value-wise. All right? Not finish on the season, value-wise, right now.
What would I pay?
Like, want them on my Dynasty team, right?
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan.
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
Brees. Saquon.
Saquon.
A chain.
A-Chain.
Yeah.
I want A-Chain over Saquon.
Kyron Williams.
Kyron.
Yeah, Kyron.
Yeah, Kyron.
He just eats.
I hate that, but yeah.
Stop disrespecting Kyron Williams, guys. Say it faster.
I didn't. Hey, man, I'm with
I
you.
know.
Kyron Williams.
Chad, the fact that I said it at all.
I know.
Kenneth Walker. Jonathan Taylor.
CMC.
I hate JT, but I think still.
I love JT, but he's capped. His ceiling feels capped.
Is it now though?
Because
I think it might not be now.
Like he's got a
with
better
Flacco,
ceiling
man.
now. Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's about even for me.
Yeah,
Where
it's
are
a
we at
lot
now?
closer
Are we
there.
10? Is that where we're at now? Or we have 11?
Jonathan Taylor was the 8th name. The next one is Kamara.
I'll take CMC.
CMC.
Yeah, CMC.
So then we have CMC at 9, RB9.
Yeah.
What about Mixon?
Or 8.
That's what I was gonna say. Mixon's, because when I was doing my research, like Mixon is
No.
number 1 in points per game.
Yeah, that dude is a stud this year in that offense.
He's number 1 in points per game.
Yep. He is a
That's RB
stud
position.
in that offense.
And now with
Can you get Mixon for an early second right now?
I'm gonna try in a couple of these, but I doubt it.
I could. Holy crap! I feel like you can't get him for less than a first.
What do you think, Jesse? Don't you? Oh, you don't have him in the league. I have. Dang, I was gonna try. I just acquired that early second. I was like, oh.
I've been in and out of the Mixon business so many times, man. I'm not buying him at this point. But here's my question on Mixon, though. This is what worries me about him. Everybody's calling for them to pass more. They have this stud quarterback, Nico Collins. Nico Collins is coming back in week 10. I don't care if Diggs is gone. They have Nico and Tank. They still have Dalton Schultz. Mixing a little matchy. But my question is, does their offense change depending on the defense they're playing, and can we really predict that going down the stretch? When you know the Niners offense is always going to be centered around CMC no matter what. I just don't think you can say that about the Texans and Mixon. Yes, it's been that way so far, and it's been amazing. And if you have him, awesome. But you can't pay the prices for that and just assume it to keep happening. Like, if it falls down to RB2 level, you fucked up.
Yeah, my rebuttal to that real quick is their pass grade on offensive line is atrocious. Whereas the run line has actually been average to above average. So I think if he's a smart coordinator, he's not going to change that because Stroud is getting destroyed.
But
Yeah,
if
he's
they
not
find a way to
coming
help
forward.
Chip work the offensive line into a, you know what I mean, a workable unit. I mean, offensive lines aren't static, and things can change and improve, and
Sure.
schemes can also change and improve.
Like
I
they're
mean,
still 6-2 despite Stroud
Yeah.
struggling, right? Because of Mixon. So it's like you've got to, like, I don't know why you change it.
I don't know why a lot of things happen in the NFL, but from week to week, things don't ever seem to be the same.
And like everyone, like,
The one thing I know is in San Fran, McCaffrey's getting the ball.
yeah,
I just what happened with him, you know, with his, they call it a calf or Achilles or whatever it was, just put such a scare into everybody. They forget what's really going to happen when he comes back. I'm just putting everybody on notice now.
Let me ask you guys something. Separate question here. Is James Cook the most disrespected running back in the NFL
Possibly.
from a fantasy perspective?
God, he has gotten so good. Like I was not a big. In fact, I disrespected the shit out of him coming out, but he has gotten so good. Like my line, if you remember, my line was just a stiff
Blown
breeze.
over in the wind or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, not at all anymore. Contact balance is great. Vision has gotten really good. He doesn't just bounce everything anymore. He really picks his spots. He's just damn good. And if Josh Allen is handing off to you inside the 5 or inside the 10, then you got chops, because that dude doesn't like the handoff inside, inside the 10.
I just hate that he's barely getting half the snaps, because that's like the one thing that I did notice.
Do you?
And I get he's getting the touchdowns, but it's like if that stops, that's what worries me.
Do
like
you
Ray Davis, I feel like
he's only getting half the snaps? I mean, I kind of like it. I don't know that he's built to get all of those snaps.
Like, I know that was like part of my argument, right? Like there are no true bell cows, but like that, and like Ray Davis has looked good in spots.
I think it's also, I think you also have to realize too that they have given him the opportunity to be a bell cow in a number of games. It's just tough with some of the teams they've been playing, right? I think he's looked phenomenal. I mean, there's a case to be made. He's the second best player on that entire team.
Yeah,
he's looked really, really good this season.
Yeah,
and I went from shopping him in leagues, like actively shopping him, trying to get as much as I could for James Cook in leagues, and just watching him. And I've been watching the Bills quite a lot recently. Just watching him every week, there came a point where I was like, why am I shopping this guy? Like, it's just
I got him for 2/3.
Yeah.
Last year in the draft. I mean, that's an extreme case, but he was in the.
Well, I got him, and Chad, you might remember this at the beginning of the season, because I asked you about this trade, and I actually didn't take your advice, but now I'm glad I did, because I traded CMC for Cook in a first at the beginning of the season before McCaffrey thing happened, and then because this was actually a Marvel, and then because this was where I was like, I think this is kind of a rebuild. I was like, no, you need to go all in. And then I had Cook, and then Cook was doing really well. And I was like, oh, well, I think I'll just sell high. And so then I traded Cook for Henry, Chubb, and a second. And now like Henry's going crazy. and so it's just like building on top of itself. And now I've like got a plethora of picks. And now I still don't know what to do in that league. But yeah, Cook's still killing it. So I'm like, man, that was my only share of Cook too. So kind of.
All right, cool story, Mike.
Thanks. For you, okay. All right. Talking trades, talking Cook. I don't know.
Gentlemen, we are almost at the end.
Moral of the story, okay.
All right. We're almost at the end. Before we finish up, I do want to know what everybody's doing for Halloween. Austin, let's start with you, since this is you and your girl's favorite holiday, right?
Yeah, we've been doing stuff for a month plus. But on tomorrow night, we're going to her grandma's house and passing out candy for kids. And we'll throw in dollars with them and everything. And
oh, really?
We do that every year. It's a lot of fun.
Whole dollars?
Dollar bills.
Not even halves.
Wow.
Are you
I can't
gonna
do
give out
fives.
Are you going to give out whole candy bars too?
Absolutely.
Like some kind of maniac?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, they're not
Just-
my kids. I don't care if their teeth rot.
Throw quarters at the poorly dressed kids.
Okay.
The ones with awful costumes.
They'd have to be pennies if I'm gonna throw them away. I can't do
That's
quarters.
true. Yeah.
Chad, you have 2 kids. What are you doing with them tomorrow?
They're dressing up like trains. So my wife
Trains.
made them train
is awesome.
costumes. I'll send you guys pictures.
Cute.
Yeah, so she's been crafting them all day. So
Nice.
they're gonna run around the neighborhood screaming choo choo. It's gonna be great.
That's awesome.
So you're actually going to take them door to door trick or treating?
Well my kid's got a at his school, he's got like a Halloween parade thing that they're gonna
Okay,
do.
cool.
And then yeah, I'm sure we'll take him around somewhere. May not be door to door, maybe like a little Halloween, neighborhood gathering thing, but we'll figure it out.
Trunk or treat. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Something like that.
Casper, you have 1,000 kids.
So so I've got 3 girls, right? So we're like full on Swifties over here, right? So sadly, we did have a friend who tried to get my wife the dream to get tickets to go to New Orleans to see Taylor Swift. Did not work out to get her tickets, sadly. But so she ordered an outfit to be Taylor Swift. My wife, believe it or not, was trying to get me to dress up as Travis Kelce. Broncos fan, for those of you who don't know, absolutely will not happen.
What?
So strongly considering dressing up as Bo Nix, and Taylor Swift will be cheating on Travis Kelce with Bo Nix.
See, this was a man. You should have dressed up as Bo Nix and had Travis Kelce's head on a spike or something.
Oh,
And just walked around with that.
That would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
like
a good
fun now,
time.
Mike.
yeah. I should have done that. Yeah, I didn't go too crazy because we were trying to save up for the Taylor Swift tickets in case we got them. But yeah, so I was
Also,
like,
Mike, you
I was
missed,
like, I'll sacrifice my costumes for that. So
you missed the mark because, as I've always said, you look like Clayton Tune, so you should be Clayton Tune.
yeah, he's not even in the league anymore.
Yeah, he is. He's Arizona's backup. He's Kyler's backup.
Practice squad, maybe.
Yeah, but nobody knows that but you, Jesse.
Kyler's backup.
He's not the actual backup, is he? I thought Ritter was.
No, Ritter got traded or released or something like that.
Signed off the practice
Yeah, he's
squad.
somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. So the wife and I went Monday night to see Duran Duran live in Baltimore. They have a new Halloween themed album called Danse Macabre. It was very cool. They did a lot of really cool covers. Evil Woman, the old 70s song. White Lines was a lot of fun. So
Heck
that was a blast. We had really a lot of fun. And my sister had a party last Saturday night, so we've been doing a lot. We dressed up like Milk and Cookies, but I was expired milk with a zombie face. And she was an infused cookie, so she kind of had like a hippie thing going on. So it was a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool.
I think that was just a way of them like smoking weed. She was dressed up like a cookie. She just smelled like weed.
Yeah,
An excuse for you to get
that's why
hyped.
we smell like weed. My parents were pretty used to me smelling like weed, to be honest. And on that note, everybody have a happy and safe Halloween. And this has been the Front Office.
Peace.